Welcome to the HawkCast with your host, AJ Hawk.
How's everything?
Good, man. Everything's going well. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
No problem, my brother.
Yeah. You all set? You good?
I'm good on my end.
All right, good. Well, it's all my own deal. I don't know if you ever listened to podcasts or you know what podcasting is, but that's what this is.
I don't even know what podcast is. I had to figure out if I was going to get dressed or not.
You're good. That's the best part, man. That's how it works. All right, man. That's good. Hey, trust me. I think you're a guy that needs no introduction, obviously. Sir Charles Barkley. Hey, where did you get the Sir from? Where did that come from?
You know, I have no idea, to be honest with you. They gave me so many nicknames in college. You know, we were trying to drum up support at Auburn, so I was the bread truck. I was Food World. I was the Wide Loads from Leeds. And then Sir Charles came in there some way. You know, because, you know, when you go to a football school, which you know well, you'll do anything to draw attention to your basketball program.
Yeah, that's a good point. You went to Auburn back in the day. What was their football team like at the time?
Well, one of the great joys in my life was I went to college all 3 of my years at college with Bo Jackson. And as you know, he's a living legend. And I actually got to see him play in high school. And then he came to Auburn, man. It was crazy, AJ, seeing that guy play. And then not only that, I got to see him play baseball too. And I tell you what, we're great friends to this day. But we always had good teams. Bo won the Heisman. But, man, you know, football's just king at Auburn. It's a great weekend event.
That's kind of how I feel like. I mean, the NBA is still huge, but it doesn't get the numbers that NFL does. Like, why do you think that is? And do you think it's going to change moving forward?
No, I don't think it's ever going to change for a couple of reasons. Number one, football is only one day a week. In a lot of these major cities, I mean, because think about it, it's really big in college, certain colleges. Some colleges could care less. I mean, I'm blessed to be from the South where Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, that's all those people care about. So that's the college end. But then you get to the NFL, you got the Steelers, you got the Packers, you got even the Cleveland Browns, with no matter whether they're good or not, they got crazy fans. They always been amazing. So as great as I love my basketball, man, one game a week, every game's important and significant. As much as basketball has done for me in my life, first of all, not just basketball, there's nothing can touch the NFL.
Do you think they would benefit if they cut down the schedule and maybe played 60 games?
Well, I would like to see them go to 70, to be honest with you. I would love to see them play 70 games. I would love to see them wait until Christmas to start. Because if you go back and look, I've been in this thing for 30 years. The highest ratings we ever got was the year we were on strike when we started after Christmas, because you're not competing with college football and the NFL. But I would love to see them go to 70 games. But, you know, AJ, these guys, everybody wants to make a lot of money. The players are making a ton. The owners are making a ton. So they're not going to cut the games, unfortunately.
They can't. I mean, they need to have home games and sell those tickets to pay the salaries, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's, you know, unfortunately, sports, and to the detriment, it become all about money at this stage of the game. And we've forgotten a lot about the fans. You know, we don't care about how we outprice them for tickets. We actually have too many games. You know, people talk about the ratings of the NFL are declining. Like, just as a novice, you know, it used to be great. You just work. I mean, I can't wait for Sunday. Then you couldn't wait for Monday. Now we got games on Thursday. So it just gotten to the point where there's just so many games on now. You know, late in the season, they start playing on Saturday night. So I think people just got NFL fatigue. That's why there's been a slight drop in ratings.
It's a slight drop, but it's really nothing when you look at the grand scheme that every team is worth over $1 billion and multiple billions for some teams. But I just saw the Rockets, what they sold for $2.2 billion. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know, it's amazing, man. I was looking at all that yesterday, and the guy paid $85 million afford and sold it for $2.2 billion. But I've always said this, AJ. Listen, owning a professional sports franchise is like print money. It's pretty much bulletproof because of TV revenue. People, listen, first of all, the fans are important and significant, but all these sports are driven by TV revenue. You know, our new TV deal, we went from $1 billion to $2.5 billion a year, and that's just like 1/3 of NFL. But think about that. We were paying these teams $1 billion a year to pay these players. And you see in the last 2 years when the deal kicked in, all these salaries are going crazy because it went to $2.5 billion a year. I mean, it's amazing.
NBA contracts are confusing to me. I think everyone knows, like, whatever LeBron does, like, I don't even understand how he's able to, like, opt out every couple years. What is that, like, loophole or whatever he works out to where he can get a max contract? How is he doing that?
Well, he has all the power. I mean, they have to sign him. And, you know, and it's kind of like you get an extra 10, 20, $30 million every time you're a free agent. So that's why these guys are doing it. But, you know, that's something only a couple players can do. I mean, LeBron's doing it. Kevin Durant's doing it. But it's just a little loophole in the contract where you just keep being a free agent. Because, like I say, depending on your number of years of experience, you get to add a few $1 million.
I know you were drafted 5th overall. How long was your first contract you signed?
My first, you know, it's so funny. You know, I'm so old. I remember going back the first time a guy made $1 million. We were all going around the locker room high-fiving. I mean, people forget the average NBA salary when I got in was like $400,000, I think, if I'm correct. But I remember Dr. J and Moses, Maurice Cheeks, and all those guys. When the first guy, I think Magic Johnson got, and he got $1 million, and everybody's like, I can't believe an NBA player is making $1 million. Now the average salary is like $9 million. It's been amazing. But to get back to your original question, my first contract was 4 years, $2 million.
You made it. You arrived. What'd you do once you signed that?
Well, the first thing I did, I bought my mom a car and my grandmother a car. And then my agent says, you better slow down. You don't realize something. You don't get to take all this money home. That was my first recollection of taxes. You know, I tell all these guys all the time, you know, somebody reading in the newspaper where a guy makes $5 million. I'm like, well, you do know he don't take $5 million home. So the first thing I started spending money, because I'm really close to my mother and grandmother. I bought them a car, and my agent says, don't forget, you got to go to Philadelphia, get you a place to live. You got to get you a car, so slow down.
So you were able to slow down early on, I guess, in your rookie year. What's the biggest mistake you see some guys make when the general public sees a guy that, oh, he gets paid $100 million? I couldn't dream of spending that money. First off, I tell them, if you have the internet, you can spend that in one day, I feel like. But what's the big mistake you think some of these young guys make that do blow through all their money?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, they buy too many cars. They buy too many jewelry. And they've got too many family members and friends they let borrow money. You know, AJ, people don't understand. Like you say, if a guy, like I say, and I know these are big numbers I'm throwing out there. If a guy's making $10 million, that's a lot of money. But he's not taking $10 million home. And if you buy 3 or 4 cars, first of all, you got to pay your agent. Then you got to buy a place to live. Most of the time, you're going to a complete new city. And if you got X amount of people on the payroll, that money goes quickly. And then you got so many family and friends asking you to borrow money. It's crazy. I mean, I get people who people who married into the family want to call and borrow money. And I'm like, I don't even know these people. And I had to learn the hard way. It probably took me $3 to $4 million that I did not before I learned my lesson. Because once you start giving people money, they're never going to stop. They're going to keep coming.
How did you how do you stop? It's just cold turkey where you say, I'm not giving money to anybody?
You can't lend people money. Oprah said something to me one time was very interesting. She said, we were talking about lending money because I had asked her when I was on the show one time. She says, you have to understand something. When you lend people money, you have to have the reality of you're just giving them that money. They're not going to pay you back. Because remember this, AJ, you're lending somebody money who don't have money. How in the hell are they going to pay you back? I mean, the whole premise itself is stupid. Wait a minute, you don't have any money, but I'm gonna give you money. How are you gonna pay me back? And she told me, she says, because you know what it does? It ruins all your relationships. Because number one, that person doesn't want to be around you because they can't afford to pay you back. You resent them because they can't pay you back. And it always ends badly when you tell them no. Because no matter how much money you have given them, the first time you tell them no, they resent you.
No question. That I wonder, that had to be a tough thing for you because you're such a generous, like outgoing, fun guy. So I'd imagine obviously people they gravitate to you. Was there like a moment in time when like a certain date, or was that like a gradual process where you just started cutting people off?
Well, one of my best friends, a guy I went to high school with named John Edwards, he said something to me one time because when I gave people money, I didn't go around telling everybody who I gave money to. He says, "Hey, can I?" He says, "Can I ask you a question?" I says, "Yeah." He said, "When you're not home, a couple of these guys talk really bad about you behind your back." And I said, "You want to know why?" I said, "Because they each owed me about $250,000, and I told them they couldn't get another dime." He says, "First of all, you lent those fools $250,000 because you want to keep your friends, but then when you realize they just gonna keep coming for money, it ruins your relationship."
Is that why it seems like you're friends with big time guys like Jordan, Tiger, and all these dudes that don't need your money?
Well, I was really close to both of those guys for a long time. Our relationship is kind of disintegrated. Tiger disappeared back after the accident. Wish him nothing but the best. Love him, and I think me and Michael's relationship soured because he's some things I said about him on television. But I think the reason I was friend with those guys, number one, I'm always going to be honest. I'm always going to be straightforward. And I never have a hidden agenda. I think even if you talk to the NBA players today, even when I criticize them, I don't say it just to get attention or get people to click on. They know it's my honest, fair opinion.
What happened with MJ? What'd you say to him to make him upset?
Well, I thought that he was hiring too many of his friends to work for him and wasn't getting good basketball people. I think that uh, he needed to do a better job of surrounding himself with people. Because you have to understand something. You know this. When you're famous and you're rich, you pay for all the bills, you buy all the drinks, you buy all the dinners. So people tell you what you want to hear all the time. And Michael was struggling as a GM. And I said, listen, Michael's never going to be successful until he surrounds himself with basketball people who don't want to just be on the payroll. And he got offended by that, and our friendship has not been the same since then.
That's a shame because you guys go way back. Dream team, gold medals,
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah. I miss him. I love him like a brother. But that's the hardest part about my job. When you're on television, you have to criticize people you don't like, and that's not a lot of fun. Because I give you an example. Look, I admire and respect the hell out of LeBron James, but I went at him pretty hard when he left Cleveland the first time, and I really like that guy. I think that guy's one of the 10 greatest basketball players ever. But he should have never left Cleveland the first time. And you know what's probably going to happen if he leave Cleveland next year? I'm probably going to go at him again next year. But I've said things about Kobe. I've said things about Kevin Durant. But I'm going to do my job. I mean, because I think my obligation is number one to my boss, but number two, my job is to the fans to try to be honest with them.
How have any of them come to you and I guess after they cooled down, maybe if you were critical and maybe appreciated your honesty?
Kobe Bryant is the only guy who came to me and said, "Hey, maybe I overreacted," because I when they were playing a playoff game one year, we were sitting there watching the game, and I'm the first person who called it. I said, "I cannot believe what Kobe Bryant did tonight. He wouldn't shoot the ball. He went like the whole second half against the Phoenix Suns, if I could remember correct. He wouldn't shoot the ball." And I says, "That's BS what he just did." And then a couple of people called him out later. Started calling me that same night, going crazy on me on the phone. But I think I was right that night, and I love Kobe Bryant. He's a wonderful dude. But man, I had to call him out because what he did was not right that night.
Was that something you were able to do early on, back like in 2000 when you took the job with TNT? Were you able to be critical right off the bat?
Well, I think I had to grow into it, to be honest with you, because the one thing you learn as a player, first of all, and it's wrong, you think we're always right and the coaches and everybody else is full of crap.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and when you grow up and mature and you have to take a step back and be honest and straightforward, you have to realize, man, some of these players are a pain in the ass. Like, they are full of it. And when you're a player, you always think the player is right. And I've actually went back to some of my coaches and said, hey, I hope I wasn't a pain in the ass like some of these guys are. But you know how it is. We all think, as players, we have to stick together. And you think all coaches are full of crap. And first of all, because, on teams, you get your little clique. And if you got a friend who's not playing, he thinks the reason he's not playing, the coach don't like him. And then when you grow up, you're like, no, dude, you're just really not that good as a player. The coach does not have this hidden agenda where he says, don't let me play my best players because I don't like this guy personally.
Now that makes me wonder how you guys were able to have so much success. Like I said, you won the gold medal in '92 and '96 with the Dream Team. How are you able to bring all those personalities, all those egos on the same team when there's only one ball? Like, how does that work?
That was the best time of my life because, we talked earlier about money. Back then, we never got money until you proved yourself. So we always had to check our egos at the door and become the best player that we could be. They didn't give you $100 million after 3 or 4 years in the league before you had proved anything. I tell you what, that was the best time in my life as far as basketball was concerned. We got along so well. And you got to remember something. I played on the second Dream Team and hated it because guys were complaining about playing time. Guys were complaining about who's starting. I tell this story all the time. In 1992, Magic, Bird, Michael, David, Patrick, man, we got along so well. No guys ever worried about playing time. Chuck Daly had 2 starting units. Nobody cared who started. And then a short 4 years later, that's when I think guys started worrying about their brand and things like that. Because 96, the greatest thing about 96 was we played in the United States. But, man, it wasn't a lot of fun with some of these young guys complaining about playing time and starting. But we never had that in 92.
Is that something that will continue to happen to where, like, sometimes older guys don't understand young guys' perspective? Like, did you deal with that when you came in as a young player? I mean, you played with Dr. J. Were those guys looking at you saying that?
No, those guys tried to help me. Moses made me lose 50 pounds. He was trying to help me
50,
become a
5-0?
Yeah, I played about 300 pounds at Auburn, and I was pretty big. So, Moses became like a father figure. I called him Dad. And one of the great highlights of my life, I got to do the eulogy at his funeral last summer. The guy's like a father to me. But the point I want to make, man, back in the day, older guys just wanted those young guys. They did everything they could do to help us become better players. But these young guys today, they're more concerned about their brand and things like that. And they see, that's the difference. You asked a very interesting question. See, these guys today look at it as old guys trying to hold me back. We didn't look at it like that. These old guys were trying to help us be better people. They taught me how to dress. They taught me how to save my money. But the question today is, they're like, why is this old guy hating on me? And I think these young guys could learn a lot from these old guys.
Do you have any guys, like young guys in the league, that you maybe reach out to you that you mentor?
The one young kid who called me and asked me to work with him a little bit was Jabari Parker. And I told Jason Kidd called me and said, hey, would you spend some time with Jabari? And I said, I'll do anything for this young kid, anything. Number one, I hope he gets healthy. But, AJ, I don't care how much money they make. God bless them. I know I made more money than Bill Russell. And he's clearly a much better player than me. And Will Chamberlain, all those guys. But I want all these young guys to be successful. I don't care how much money they make. But I wish more of those young guys would reach out to older guys. Like, even to this day, I talk to Dr. J. I talked to Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney, and Bobby Jones, and those guys, and it's just like a friendship thing.
What do you think about I'm sure it's overblown, or people ask you every day of your life, like this whole super team deal. And the only reason I ask that is because I feel like there's a double standard, and in the NFL, you don't blame a guy for like chasing rings, joining the Patriots, like a lot of older guys have tried to do. But in the NBA, if you join a winner, you're somehow you can't do it on your own. Like, what do you think about all that happening right now?
Well, you just said something interesting. You said when you get older, you don't mind a guy chasing rings. I have no problem with an older guy chasing rings at the end of his career. I saw Karl Malone do it. I've seen Gary Payton do it, guys like that. But I don't believe as a young player you should be chasing rings. I think you should have some loyalty to your fan base. I think you should want to win. I tell you, one guy I really admire is Dirk Nowitzki. He hung in there in Dallas and got it done. I'm not a big fan, and I hated the fact that Kevin Durant went to Golden State. He had the best team in Oklahoma. I thought that's a great fan base there. I'm not a big proponent of super teams. LeBron started the super team thing when he got all his guys together. And, I didn't win the championship, but I still feel very good about my career. I can look myself in the mirror, and I worked my behind off. But it means a lot more if you're not part of a super team. A lot more.
I think so. I think Kevin Durant delivered when he went to Golden State and he played so well. That I don't know if it took some heat off him or what, but can you imagine if he would have gone there and he would not have played well in the finals?
Well, they would have crushed him. But you know what? He didn't play well when they were in Oklahoma City, when they blew a 3-1 lead. He got to take some responsibility for that. But the Warriors, I give them a lot of credit, man. Steph is great. Clay is great. They got a great organization. And Kevin was the final piece last year. But I'll always be sad that he left Oklahoma City.
Me too, man. As a fan, yeah, it's kind of weird. I guess it took a little bit of it away from the Warriors championship with, just how many studs they had on one team, I guess. But I could see, like, do you think it's ever possible that he goes back to Oklahoma City, Durant?
That's a great question. I've said I was actually on the radio with Colin Cowherd when LeBron wrote that letter going back to Ohio, and I actually almost teared up because that's one of the reasons we wanted LeBron to stay in Ohio. I mean, that's why we wanted Kevin to stay in Oklahoma City. And I was on the radio when Colin Cowherd was reading that article that LeBron had wrote for Sports Illustrated, and it was one of the most heartfelt things how much Ohio meant to him. And listen, no matter how much success Kevin has in San Francisco, his first 8-9 years in Oklahoma City, remember, you got to understand, they didn't even have that team there when he first went there. And those fans, they probably got the best fans in the NBA today in Oklahoma City. And I just hate he left there. And I would love to see him go back. Just like I say, I was really excited and thrilled. I said, in my 30 years in the NBA, when LeBron wrote that letter and went back to Cleveland, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen and heard.
How are you going to feel if he jets off to L.A. now in a year or two?
I'm going to have to bash him on TV because, listen, why did he write that letter saying how much Ohio meant to him if he's going to leave?
Why would he leave? Like, for real, why would he want to leave Cleveland? He has his rings. He's done it. Why would you want to go somewhere else?
That's a great question. I don't see why he would want to leave there. Like I say, I hope he stays there. I get, it's interesting. I get sick and tired of every year we spend, like, not 1 year, but like 2 years talking about where's LeBron gone. Man, we started the thing with LeBron 2 years ago. Then we went with KD. We did the same thing with Carmelo, if you remember. Like, where's Carmelo gonna go for 2 years? And to me, it takes away. Number one, it really hurts the fan base where you're at because you're not showing them a lot of loyalty at all. But I wish some of these players, because man, these fans, they're invested in you. I mean, those people in Cleveland, they've given LeBron every single thing in the world. Those people in Oklahoma City, they loved Kevin Durant. And these guys at some point got to realize, yeah, it's great to win the championship, But there is some about growing in a place like a Reggie Miller, spend your whole career there, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, guys like that, but you spend your whole career in one city.
Yeah, switching gears quickly. I was actually recently watching some of your greatest fights and brawls that you had on the court, and I have to give you a lot of credit. First off, much respect to you for actually throwing punches. It's refreshing to see a fight and there's punches thrown. So, but let me tell you, so my novice breakdown of your fights was amazing. You never took on small guys either, which more respect. But you seem like you would throw early and then you would go for the takedown and you'd always get the guy on the ground. I think you're one of the smartest guys in the world.
You got to understand something. I'm probably the only player in NBA history who every single player I played against was taller than me. I mean, there's no 6'6" power forwards in the history of basketball other than me. So you got to understand something. I'm always thinking out there. If I said the rare times, and there's been a few rare times, a fight break out, you got to get them down. You can't be throwing from a distance. They're all throwing down. So it's harder for me to throw up than it is for them to throw down. So I'm trying to get them on the ground as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it was fun to see. I mean, I know your Shaq fight was famous, and Shaq, you threw the ball off his head. He kind of swung like a glancing blow, it looked like, and then bam, you got him to the ground and just ground and pound.
Well, that was an underestimation on my part. When I hit him with the ball, I didn't know he was going to throw a punch. So I got lucky, number one, that he can't fight. Number two, the punch didn't land. But he's a perfect example of a guy you got to get down on the ground. Because if you try because he got such a huge reach advantage on you, you got to get him to the ground as quickly as possible.
Well, you also fought Charles Oakley, which Oakley just got escorted out of MSG months ago from. Is he fighting with the owner?
He was trying to say some things to the owners. He got to fighting with the ushers. You know, Charles Oakley is an interesting guy. He hates me more than anybody in the world, I think.
Still,
and I have no idea why. He comes on radio every year and a half to 2 years and just bashes me. And I have no idea why. We got into it, but I see Bill Laimbeer all the time, and dude, we got to fighting 30 years ago. It's over with. Let it go. But for some reason, Charles Oakley just hates me, and I just laugh about it.
Wow, that's amazing. He still holds that grudge. He looks. I mean, I was watching him getting escorted out of the Garden, and I was just glad I wasn't one of those ushers trying to get him out.
But that's a perfect example. He's trying to fight 6 guys. Who try to fight 6 guys by themselves? I mean, come on, man. You can see that thing building. You're like, okay, there's 1, there's 2, there's 4, there's 6. At this point, you should just leave peacefully. But he started throwing blows. And so I'm like, wow, dude. But is that always going to end badly when there's 6 of them?
Yeah, and he's probably 50+ years old, right?
Hey, listen, fighting ain't for old people.
It's not. How do you feel physically right now?
Oh, AJ, this has been my best summer ever. I got really fat the last 2 years. I got 2 fake hips. So, when you get those hips, you really can't do any physical activities for 3 to 4 months. So I gained 80 pounds. So I took this entire summer with my boxing trainer and my personal trainer. We've been working out 5-6 hours a day for the last 3-4 months. And I've lost 46 pounds this summer, man. I feel great. I mean, I was really fat and lazy. I apologize to myself, first of all, because that's my fault. But to all my family and friends said I'll never have them again. But I've taken this entire summer off. And I've been going at it 5 or 6 hours a day. And like I said, I'm down 46 pounds this summer, and I feel amazing. I still got a ways to go. Like I said, I gained about 85 pounds when I got the hips. But like I say, this is the best I've felt in probably 10, 15 years.
Wow, that's good to hear. I just assume if you gain weight, it's for your Weight Watchers deal and you're obligated by contract.
Hey, listen, Weight Watchers have been great for me. I lost weight before I got the hips. But like I say, man, if you, I tell anybody who's watching this, man, if you need hips, it's the best thing in the world. Like I said, I could barely walk for the last 10, 15 years. Now, I just went to this fat farm out in California called the Ashram, where you hike 10, 15 miles a day. I walk 10 to 15 hike. They call it hiking. I call it walking. I hike 10 to 15 miles a day for a week. This place is amazing. Check it out, Ashram. And man, I had no problems with my hip whatsoever. I mean, it was one of the. It was. I really had a great time. Except, you eat vegetarian. That's the only thing that sucks about it. I need meat, but they serve you vegetarian food all week. But you hike like 10 to 15 miles a day, and I had no problems with my hips, so it was awesome.
Well, you call it a fat farm. What is it? What are you supposed to like? Is it supposed to like rejuvenate your system or what?
Well, you get up every morning around 5:30. You do yoga. You eat breakfast. Then starting on Sunday to the next weekend, you hike like 10 miles a minimum every day. You come back every day, do yoga again. Then you eat lunch. Then you get a massage. Then in the middle of the afternoon, you either do water aerobics or light weightlifting. You do yoga again. Then you have dinner from 7 to 8. Then you go to bed because 5:30 get there really early. But it's an amazing place out in Calabasas, California. I recommend if somebody want to go and get away from reality for a week and first of all, you sleep great because you're exhausted.
Do you go with anybody? Like, do you take your wife or anyone?
No, you take 12 random strangers. It's crazy.
And all of a sudden, they look up and they're like, "Who's this big dude? What's Charles Barkley doing here at this fat farm?"
Well, some of the people don't know you because a lot of them are foreigners. Some of them are big time CEOs, CEOs. I've been there with supermodels. I've been there with judges. They take 12 people a week. It's the most random group of people. I've done it probably 6 or 7 times, but this is the first time I've been able to do it in the last 20 years. But it's a random group of strangers. You all stay in the same house together. But it's very interesting, to say the least. A lot of those people have no idea who I am. Some of them did, but most of them have no idea who I am. And you know what they told me? They're like, we're not supposed to tell you who's here, but Tony Romo was here like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so they did. They said, because they said, you're pretty cool. We'll tell you. Tony Romo was there. And so I had to give him a hard time about that.
Yeah, you say, all right, well, I'll send him a text right now, and you just broke your HIPAA laws.
Yes, I did.
That's awesome, man. My dad's actually getting a fake hip put in 3 weeks now, so he'll be glad. He'll watch this, and he'll be glad to hear that you're doing well.
Hey, let me tell you something. Every friend that I talked to beforehand says, when you get your new hip, the first thing you're going to say, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. And when I got the first one, I felt great. And then once I got the second one, I said, I cannot believe I was stupid and tried to wait longer. I'm telling you, AJ, it's going to change his life. Like I said, I've been in Lake Tahoe. The last 2 years, right after Lake Tahoe, because I don't want to miss Lake Tahoe, I went in the hospital 2 days later to get fake hips. So I could barely walk my last 2 years in Lake Tahoe. This year, I walked 4 rounds. I had random strangers says, I can't believe how good you're walking. I walked 18 holes, 4 days in a row, had zero pain, didn't even get tired. And like I say, everybody noticed the last couple of years I could barely walk. Because like I say, when I left for the last 2 years, I went right to the hospital. But I walked 4 days in a row in Lake Tahoe and felt amazing. I mean, I played crappy golf, but I had no pain. It was awesome this year.
Yeah, I remember watching you. I think I was behind you one of the days, and I saw you walking. I was like, "Oh man, this sucks." And they're like, "Oh no, he's going to get a new hip here in a couple of days." And I see you this year. You're like it's nothing. I saw you a week ago at another event, and you look great, and you were swinging good on the driving range, and it remind me of when you were working with Hank Haney. You still in contact with him? Has he got you figured out?
Well, I'm still in great contact with Hank, man. One of the great people in my life. The problem is I can't take it to the course.
Is that hitch only come when you're playing like public rounds, or does that happen like when you're playing with your friends?
It happens when I'm playing with my friends. I choke when I get. The only way to explain it, I choke when I get on the golf course. I mean, I can't handle pressure on the golf course. You saw when I'm on the range, I'm good to go, swinging nicely. But once I get on the golf course, I just choke like a dog. And I've tried everything. I'm really considering going completely left-handed. But the thing is, I wish I could give you a good reason. But the bottom line is, I just choke when I get on the golf course.
You need the one dude on your bag, like from Tin Cup, when he makes him turn his hat backwards and pull his pockets out or whatever, pull your pants down, and then you're worried about that and not your swing.
You know what's really funny? I've got to know Blair from the Golf Channel, and I watch the Golf Channel probably more than any person. Blair and her husband live in Arizona, so I've got to know them. And I tell her I hate Michael. I forget Michael Breed. I hate Martin. I hate every person on the Golf Channel because I try everything they tell me. I got like every wiffle thing. I got a garage full of stuff I see on the Golf Channel. Like when I see Michael and he's got some little thing, I got to go buy that. When I see Martin, I'm like, I got to go buy that because I've tried every single 10 cup thing. I forget, he says all these tools are for the fools. But I've got because I watch golf. Like I say, I don't mind sucking at golf because as long as I smoke a couple cigars and I get to drink out there, I'm good. I mean, so but man, I've tried every foolish tool that I've seen on the Golf Channel.
So you want to get better? Like, do you love being out there and playing? I know a lot of people probably would have given up if they kind of had the yips like that.
Well, you think about it. I play golf and I fish. That's the only two places, man, you can go and get peace and quiet. I mean, like when you go, I tell people when you go to the supermarket, people want to talk. When you go to the dry cleaner, people want to talk. When I'm out there on the golf course with three of my friends, first of all, there's a lot of trash talking going on. Same thing with fishing. Those are the only two things that somebody who's in the limelight can get peace and quiet doing. Like I say, I understand being friendly and all that stuff is part of the game, but sometimes you just want to get away and not be Charles Barkley or AJ Hawk. And on the golf course, when you're out there with three of your friends and y'all just riding each other or y'all on fishing, those two things to me, man, they're invaluable.
Well, that leads me to thinking. So, like, I view you literally as like the happiest person on the planet. Like, how true is that? And how do you manage the fact that when you walk into a restaurant and it seems like you want to do this, but I've been multiple places where I've seen it takes you 20 minutes to get to your table sometimes because you're talking to every single table, buying bottles of wine for people. Like, is that something that just comes natural?
Well, number one, I think I talk to all these young guys about signing autographs and taking pictures. You should always do that. Now, if you eating with your family, you can say, "Hey, you got to wait till I finish." But man, you should always be cordial to the fans, always. And I know it's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass, but you should always be cordial. I'm gonna always remember. I learned that from Dr. J and those guys. But secondly, man, I'm 54 years old. I've never had a real job in my life. I've had more money than I'm probably ever gonna need or spend because of basketball and the fans. I should be nice to these people. Like I say, it's a pain in the ass at times, but man, we are so lucky and blessed. We are so lucky and blessed. Like I'll tell all these guys this one. I said, man, if you want peace and quiet, go get a 9 to 5 and barely make ends meet. Work 8 to 10 hours a day, and you don't get to take your family on great vacations. You don't have like a summer home, like all the stuff that we're so lucky and blessed to have. Just take a couple of seconds to sign a couple autographs, take a picture, and keep moving. So that's the reason, man. That's the reason I'm always going to be cordial to the fans because, man, my life is, I can't believe my life at times. I mean, I'm 54 years old, and I've never had a real job in my life, and it's because of basketball and the fans.
Well, I think a big reason that the fans are attracted to you or gravitate is because your honesty, not only like in good things, but when you've faced tough times, you're super open about like gambling and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
how's your gambling going?
it's going great. You know, I figured out that I couldn't beat the casino. Uh, AJ, I got kind of crazy because I went to Vegas a few times and won like $1 million, and I become like I got to win $1 million every
Is this
time
blackjack or what?
playing blackjack. And like I'd be playing $20,000, $30,000 a hand, and I got lucky a couple times, but I've lost a million, way more than I've won. So I kept trying to break the casino, and I realized I couldn't break the casino. So I quit gambling for like 2 years. And I told my friends, I said, man, I really miss gambling. And they're like, dude, gambling's not your problem. The problem is you're an idiot. I said, well, explain to me why you say that. They're like, Charles, we'll be sitting there. You'll be up $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. We're like, yo, man, let's quit. You're like, no, I got to get to $1 million. And not only do you lose all of that, you lose your credit too. And they sit me down and says, yo, man, why don't you go gamble, win some money, then let's go have some fun. So that's the change I made. I can't break the casino. The objective of gambling is to win money. Sometimes you're going to lose, then quit. But then when you win, quit, and go have fun. So that's the biggest change that I made, realizing that you can't break the casino. Now, they can break you, but you can't break them. And you have to realize, and I know it sounds simple, just gamble to win. Don't try to try to break the casino. That's the biggest change I made.
Did all those like the gambling habits, did that come about back in the day when you were on the dream team and hanging out with those guys? When Jordan he's famous for having $300,000 putts and things like that.
No, it started when I first got to the 76ers, to be honest with you, because like I say, I'm from a small town in Alabama. And, it's really funny talking to regular people about sports. Like, AJ, I don't know what I guess you football club, for some reason, y'all in the place all day long. And I used to tell people, they's like, yo, man, y'all practice like 5 or 6 hours a day. I said, dude, we practice like an hour a day. They're like, what do you do the rest of the day? I said, whatever you want to do. So when I first came to Philadelphia, you practice from 11 to 12, and then you're done for the day. So a couple of days a week, we drive down to Atlantic City. And I remember the first time I got like $5,000 credit, and I thought it was like, that's a lot of money. And then, next thing you know, you're at 10, you're at 25, you're at 100, you're at 250, you're at 500, you're at $1 million. So it always escalates. But it didn't start on the dream team. I was way into gambling by then. But it started when I first got to Philadelphia, and we go down to Atlantic City. It's only 45 minutes to an hour. Like I said, you practice from 11 to 12, and then you go down there for 6, 7, 8 hours and eat, gamble, and then get you a good meal, then come back, and you're like, that was a fun day.
So what happened when you went to Phoenix? You had to go to those Indian casinos?
No, dude, we went to Vegas as much as possible. It's a 45-minute flight. Even to this day, when I'm in Phoenix where I live, I go to Vegas probably twice a month. And let me tell you something. A Saturday and a Sunday in the sports book, it's one of the coolest things when you got every game on and you sitting around with these gamblers. They're talking to you about trifectas and all these different things, over and under and parlays. And you're sitting there like, I mean, there's so many ways. Like, people think you can just bet on a game, and you're like, well, what's the over under? I'm like, well, we total up all the points. I said, you can do that? They're like, yeah, you can do this. And you can pick 3 games. If you hit all 3, you win like 100 to 1. I'm like, you can? And they says, not only that, you can take it to 5. You can bet 5 games, and if you hit all 5, you can win $1 gazillion. I mean, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. But there's nothing, I tell people, there's nothing like a Saturday and Sunday in Las Vegas in the sports book.
Do you have like a regular crew that you go there with?
Oh, yeah. Roy Green was a great NFL player from back in the day. And one of my best friends is a guy named Brennan Albright. And I take my bodyguard, James, who's a cop in Houston. My thoughts and wishes to everybody down in Houston. I know you had the awful hurricane. God bless you guys. Great work, J.J. Watt. But, man, those people in Houston, they're amazing. But my bodyguard's a cop from Houston, and so is his wife. And they're hanging in there.
So, yeah, believe me, it's unbelievable what J.J. Watt has done. And it's like I've heard people say it, but it's true. Like, when bad things happen, you see, like, how good the human race really is and how they can come together.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because, unfortunately, our media has they've hijacked the world. And they spend all their time talking about all the bad crap that's going on. Man, it's like when you're a jock. AJ, 95% of the guys we play with are awesome. Like 5% of them are crazy. Mm-hmm. We know that. But they spend all their time talking about the 5%, not the 95%. And I've seen the most amazing things on this hurricane down in Texas. And it's frustrating to me as a media guy. Why don't we talk about all this stuff more often? Why do y'all spend all their time talking about the bad stuff? But it's been amazing watching those pictures from a distance. Because, man, I believe good triumphs over evil all the time. But we get beat over the head so much with all the awful stuff that goes on. And unfortunately, it takes a hurricane to realize how amazing people are. I mean, you see people all over the country, not just in Texas, all over the country, taking up contributions, packing up clothing. I mean, I've seen so much amazing stuff. It's been incredible.
Yeah, how do you're obviously famous for back in the day saying you're not a role model, and I agreed with your sentiment when you explained like what parents should be doing with their kids, basically. But like, how do you feel it's a player, no matter what professional sport they're in? Do you feel like an athlete should use that platform to speak out for things they believe in, or do you think they should just stick to ball?
No, I think no. You should definitely not just stick to ball. You have to realize football is what you did. It's not who you are. Basketball is what I did. It's not who I am. And we have an obligation because we got cameras in our face all the time to talk about things. The only problem with that is, AJ, people only want their opinion when they agree with you. That's it. People says, I want you to speak. Well, I didn't want you to speak that. I wanted you to speak, but I disagree with that. When I made that role model commercial, I went to Nike. I says, man, I'm starting to notice something about some of these young black kids. And what I told them was, I says, when I speak at all these different schools, all these black kids are brainwashed to think they can only play sports. They don't think about being doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, firemen, policemen, and things like that. They said, this is going to be a big controversy when you make this commercial. I says, I'm a big boy. I'm just trying to start a dialogue. That's what I think we should try to do when we talk on issues, start a dialogue. And I said, I'm concerned that all these black kids think they're going to play in the NBA. And they got no chance. First of all, not just NBA, playing any professional sports. I want these young black kids to think about being doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, firemen, and policemen, and things like that. And I said to this day, the role model commercial is probably the best thing that I've ever done because it comes up all the time. And like I say, I took some heat in the beginning, but the one thing that always encouraged me 95% of the letters Nike got were positive. Parents really appreciated me. Me and my friends used to make fun of me. They says, "Man, you're the only person in the history of the world who told kids to listen to their parents and got in trouble for it." I mean, so think about that, AJ. That's how stupid some of these people are. I got in trouble for telling kids to listen to their parents. That's how stupid some of the stuff we have to deal with is.
Well, none of it makes sense, and you have to see that being on TNT and doing your show all the time. I can't imagine some of the stuff they would like you to touch on. Like when you're doing your show, do they like? I'm always curious. Do you guys have like pre-production meetings before you go on air, or you show up and you just deliver gold?
Well, we just show up most of the time because unless something really serious happened and we have to address it, now we get together for that. But listen, basketball is always going to be easy. Just like football is going to always be easy to you. There's nothing going to happen on a football field that you haven't seen before. I mean, nothing. So that's easy. The tricky thing is when something serious happens, we have to get together for that. And that's always a tough night at work because people tune in to watch basketball. And we have to walk a very fine line because, like I say, people, they didn't come in for us for social commentary, but there's very few things that we sacrifice where we have to go off just basketball. There's a couple things that's happened in the last couple of years. We got to talk about this. And we were honest, we were straightforward. But I personally would prefer to just talk about basketball because when we have to talk about something off kilter, it's always really serious and really deep. And it's always going to bring out raw emotions.
Is that like what would be an example of something that happened in the last couple of years that you guys had to get together for?
Well, Uh, talking about the national anthem thing is a big deal. I think guys should stand for the national anthem. I think guys should go to the White House. I know that's a big controversy in the NBA now about the Warriors, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, so they're not going. I think they should go. I think it's not about a political party. It's the president of the United States. I don't want guys, not just these guys, any guys, and I'm not going to go because there's a Democrat or Republican in there. I just think that's wrong. I've met Republican presidents. I met Democratic presidents. I'm going to always respect the office. So that's one thing that we got to figure out because it's going to come up real soon again with the Warriors going to the White House. So that's the main thing. We talked, the thing about police brutality. Police brutality, I've gotten some heat in the black community because I support the cops. And I told them, I said, yes, I support the cops, but that don't mean I want unarmed black men killed. So some people in the black community, they come at me pretty deep saying, you always support the cops. And I said, yes, I do support the cops. But step back for a second. I don't want unarmed black men killed. And then I turn around and I says, and also we have to look at ourselves in the mirror as far as black on black crime, which is a travesty and a disgrace. And we got to start, we as black people got to start treating each other with more respect and dignity. And that is because we're putting the cops in some awkward situations. So those are tough conversations because I said that in one time and Kenny called me out on it. And I said, wait a minute. Two things can be true. I don't want, I'm going to respect cops because I know they got a difficult job. I don't want them killing unarmed black men. But on the other hand, we as black people, at the rate we're killing each other, that's unacceptable. And Kenny was a little bit offended. He called me out. And I said, first of all, we don't have to agree. I said, I'm going to love Kenny no matter what. But I'm a big believer in, as long as we're having a conversation, I'm fair with that. I'm good with that.
You're not scared to have those conversations. I feel like I think a lot of people are. I mean, it might go back to the whole brand thing where they don't want to alienate a certain group, maybe where they don't want to start that dialogue and deal with maybe some of the backlash it could cause.
Well, the one thing you have to understand, you can't make everybody happy. Anybody who think, I'll tell you this funny story. My first second year in Philadelphia, I'm a young kid from a small town. I wanted to make everybody happy. I remember saying something about God on TV one night, and the Sixers called me and says, "Hey, we would appreciate if you wouldn't talk about God." I'm like, "I just thank God for my health and success." They're like, "Well, we got a few calls." I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "There's some people who they call atheists. They don't like God. They'd appreciate." I'm like, "You can't talk about God." So, and that's like a worst case scenario. But you hear all the time, like it's like this debate with Colin Kaepernick and things like that. There's two sides. So, but you have to realize that's the thing. You can't make everybody happy. Like I say, I agree with Jim Brown. I think you should stand for the anthem and the flag. But I think Colin has that right to do that. That's just like I saw those cops in Cleveland say they're not gonna work anymore. They have that right too. If everybody has rights, and you have to accept the fact that sometimes when you have an opinion, some people are gonna disagree with it. And I learned that a long time ago.
Yeah, we have the freedom of speech, but then we don't have freedom of consequences for everything you do and say. You have to be able to be a big enough man, I guess, to deal with the consequences that may come.
Well, you look at my personal hero is Muhammad Ali. Think about this. The guy who I think is the greatest ever because of his social standing. He lost 3 years out of his career, which is like the ultimate sacrifice. And so I tell people, man, there are sacrifices for your actions. When I speak to these young kids, I speak to a lot of different colleges and a lot of high schools. I tell them, I says, there are repercussions, not just with the national anthem thing. When you're out in society doing things, you can do some. I was just speaking to a bunch of college kids, and I told them, I says, I saw that situation down in Vanderbilt where these 3 kids raped this young girl. And I says, those young kids probably never thought they were going to do something that stupid. And now they're going to jail for 20 years. And they look at me like, yeah, we all think we're not going to do stupid stuff. But sometimes if you're not careful, if you're drinking and you got some other people around you, you have to really be careful because you could make a mistake in your life that will change your life forever in the blink of an eye.
No question. I don't know. It's not nearly as serious, but have you seen when Ryan Russillo just got arrested from ESPN a couple weeks back?
Yeah, I saw that, and I've always been a big fan of his. And man, I tell people when you're drinking, I've been arrested probably 4 or 5 times. Not proud of that, but I have been.
That many? I thought it was only a couple.
No, it's been 4 or 5. Uh, and let me tell you something. You just do stuff when you're drinking, and if somebody says something to you or challenges you, and like I say, I'm to the point in my life now. If somebody said they're gonna kick my ass, I say I just walk away. But when I was 25, 26, 27, we were gonna go. I mean, we were just flat out gonna go. But now I'm mature enough. Like, yo, man, you've had enough to drink. Like my bodyguard always says to me, "We've had enough. Let's go." I want to stay. He says, "Well, you got 2 choices. I can kick your ass, or you can go." And that tells me, no, we need to go because he's a big dude. And like I say, when you're drinking, you're having fun. You don't know what you're doing half the time. But I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten older. Like, you know what? I've had enough. I've had too much to drink, or I'm at that point. It's time to go home.
Yeah, I brought up Russillo, so I had him on here a couple months back. I've actually just texted with him. He got suspended like a week from ESPN. If people don't know, I guess he got drunk and wandered into the wrong condo and fell asleep, and the cops wouldn't get out. I don't know the whole story, but basically he was drunk. He didn't hurt anybody, so it wasn't like a crazy ordeal. But his first day back on air, of course, he addressed it. He spoke about it for 6 or 7 straight minutes and said, like, I'm super upset. I'm embarrassed, but I know I'm gonna be the butt of jokes for years and years. But like he put it out front and he got out in front of it and didn't just let it linger and go silent. And I always feel like that's the best way, is to actually address it and not have skeletons in your closet.
Well, it's interesting. Right before I got out on here with you, I text Rosillo because I didn't have his number, and I texted Will Kane, and I said, "Hey man, give Ryan my best. Tell him welcome back." And then Ryan texted me right before I got on, which he said, "Thanks for checking on me. Here's my new number." So man, we all been there. We all been there. And it's worse when you're in the limelight. You can do that if you work at a supermarket and nobody know who you are. You can do stupid stuff, but when you're in the limelight and do stupid stuff, you have to pay for it, and that's just the way it is. That's the pros and cons of being successful. I've always liked Ryan, and man, I wish him nothing but the best because, AJ, you've been in the limelight a long time too, man. When you do something stupid, it's frustrating and humiliating, and you worry about your family and friends. I mean, you worry about, first of all, I think you'll find yourself, but I think you're just more embarrassed how you humiliated your mom, your dad, your brothers and sisters more than anything. That's at least the way I always felt. I'm like, oh man, I just humiliated my family. And, and then you say, I'm not going to do it again. But then you do it again. You're like, I cannot believe I'm in this situation again. But at some point you have to take a step back and say, what am I doing? What am I doing? And like I say, Ryan's a good dude. I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, but I feel like I think he addressed it, and that's something, I think you said that a long time ago with Tiger. Like, if he just needs to come out and address it. This is back in the day, I think, when everything first broke. If he would have addressed it more and been up front, I think people would have had empathy or sympathy for his situation, possibly a little bit.
Well, I think the worst thing a jock can do is try to handle it. Because I tell guys, what they don't understand is it's not the public, it's the press. The public will forgive you. The media, when they get you down, they're going to stomp on your neck. And I think a lot of guys don't understand it. Just come out and say, hey, you know what? I really screwed up. I take full responsibility for it. It's 100% on me. And I think if more jocks or anybody who make a mistake said that, the public going to forgive them a lot sooner than the media. The media going to ride it out until the next celebrity screw up. But the public, man, they're living their own life. They got their own stuff going on. They'll forgive you quickly, but you got to say the magic word, my fault, I was wrong.
No question. Final one from me, and I'm going to let you roll. I'm curious, who's your favorite coach you ever played for?
That's a great question. Probably Billy Cunningham. Number one, because he didn't take any crap off me. He made me a better player. I really enjoyed playing for Billy. Actually, I see Billy all the time now. He's kind of become like my financial mentor in life now, teaching me how to handle my money myself and keeping a closer eye.
Teaching how to win those parlays?
No parlays.
No. Okay.
First of all, one thing about Billy, he's got every dime he's ever made. He's probably never even been in a casino. But he's been a great guy. I really enjoyed Rudy Tomjanovich in Houston. He was cool. But the thing about it, AJ, is you don't appreciate these guys until you get older. Because, the thing I was telling you earlier, as a player, the players feel like we all have to stick together. Like I said, we feel like the coaches and everybody else is full of crap. As I've gotten older, I really appreciate my coaches a lot more. Probably even my college coach, Sonny Smith. You like when I was 18 years old, and he's yelling at me the whole time. I really, really resented it. But now that I'm 54, I'm like, man was only trying to make me a better player. I always tell people there's only two things I hate about life. Number one, you don't learn all this good stuff until you get older. You wouldn't do half the stupid stuff you did if you were born with all this knowledge. And secondly, you don't know when you're going to die. And listen, I'm not worried about dying, but there's so many people that I want to thank and tell them how much I appreciate their help in life. Because, you don't get to be successful without a lot of people. And I'm hoping that I get a chance to tell everybody who was significant and important in my life, I really appreciate their help.
Well, it seems like you're on your way and you're doing a great job, Charles. Really, really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. We've been talking about doing this for a while now, and we made it happen. So thank you so much.
Well, my brother, hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad we finally got it done. Hey, next time you need me on, let me know.
I will. Maybe sometime in the winter we'll talk about what's going on in the basketball world after I'm watching on TNT argue with Shaq and Kenny for a while. Well,
you can be sure of one thing. I'm gonna be arguing with Shaq because I tell people he got thinner skin than Flat Stanley. So I'm gonna ride him all year. So hey, let's do this during basketball season.
For sure, man. We'll connect. But thanks again, Charles.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'll see you.
We're glad you could join us for today's conversation. After you subscribe to the show, head over to thehawkcast.com or reach out to AJ directly on Twitter @officialAJHawk to recommend future guests that will help us inspire people to keep talking. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on the HawkCast.